Are live, Believe Nation. Happy Thursday. Thursday is my public facing day, so it's nonstop interviews and hangouts and podcasts and spreading the message. I'm going until 8 o'clock straight tonight. So this is awesome. This is my break. Get to hang out with you guys. I always start a Thursday doing something with my audience, and then afterwards it's just tons of different interviews and hangouts and podcasts. But we're here to chat with you. Hold on, let's see. Welcome, Brianna. Welcome, Pamela. I'm going to bring in, we see Angela here in the chat. Let's bring her in and see how we can serve, how we can help, who can bring some value. Happy Thursday. There she is. How you doing?
Hi, how are you? Thank you
Good,
for
how are
having
you?
me. I'm really great. Thank you.
So Angela's from the Miss World USA pageant. I was
Yes.
doing training, last week? It was
last week. Yeah.
Last week. So what's great about Miss World USA is that they have this Beauty with a Purpose contest where everybody who's joining also has to have a cause and a purpose that they're shooting towards. And I gave away 10 sessions as well with some of the contestants. So Angela's the first one up. So welcome aboard.
I'm excited. Yeah, thank you so much for offering that. This is really, really exciting.
And you're from Hawaii?
I'm representing Hawaii, but I'm actually from New York.
How does that work?
Yeah, so the process is we get to list our preferences of states, and depending on our score is which number we'll get. So I got Hawaii, which I'm not complaining about because it's a beautiful state. So yeah.
All right. Well, how can I help? What do you got?
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you could help me a bit with how I would present my Beauty with a Purpose project.
Okay.
So when I first started my project, so first of all, I'm a special ed teacher, and my Beauty with a Purpose project is pretty much just being there for people with special needs and being a buddy for them. I volunteer a lot with Night to Shine, which is an annual prom to celebrate people with special needs, and Miss Amazing, which is a pageant for women with disabilities. So when I first started it, I was just volunteering. But now that everything has gone virtual, I want to hone my Beauty with a Purpose project a little bit to focus on more virtual programming to connect people without disabilities with people with disabilities. So I just feel like in my mind it's a little bit all over the place because like it started off as one thing, and now with COVID it's become a whole different thing. So I was wondering if you could help me just how to hone it more and to really, I guess I don't want to say sell, but like to sell my projects and have people care about it.
Yeah. So it starts with figuring out, you got to make somebody who doesn't have an interest in special ed care about special ed. Mm-hmm. So how big a problem is this in America? How big of a problem is it around the world? So that I recognize, because what the judges want to say is, hey, if Miss World USA has got to go represent our brand, and I want, Angela to be on a big mission to try to solve a big problem. So how big a problem is this, and why is it, not necessarily why is it more important than like the fires in California or the rainforest or something else, but making me care. So how big of a deal is special ed? Like, why do we need it? Who cares?
Yeah, I think people with disabilities are not really represented in everyday society. Their stories are not really being told. And from what I've experienced when I talk to people with special needs, one of the problems that they've had is that they feel very lonely and they feel alone. And that's something that I've like completely relate to. Like I was pretty alone when I was a kid and an adolescent, and it's a horrible feeling. And I don't want that to happen, especially with people who are underrepresented.
And why special ed? Like, what's the connection to you?
Actually, it's just, I was studying psychology, and my professor introduced a book to us. It's called Life Animated. And in the book, it's about a little boy with autism. And the only way he could communicate with his parents was through Disney movies. Like they would act out all these Disney movies, and that was the only way that they could communicate. And there was a passage in the book where the father was like reflecting on how lonely his world is. He was sitting by himself in his bed and just saying these voices to himself. And it seems very small and insignificant, but really it was that moment that clicked with me. Like this is where I need to be, because I don't want other people to feel that way, because I felt that way too growing up. So I decided to become a special ed teacher, and I absolutely loved it. It's just, I felt like it just found me more than me seeking it out.
So the personal connection is amazing. What I would do is lead with big numbers and big data, like how many people in America have special needs or know somebody with special needs. What are the big challenges that they're facing in the current education system? And we're not trying to slam the education system. Teachers are already taxed out and have a lot on their plates. So this is why, we need to address this issue and give them resources and education. So do you have a sense of how big a problem this is?
Statistically, no, not yet. I guess I have to do more research on that.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing, right? Because Miss World USA, they want to be attached to something that's going to have a big impact. It's not just something that's going to be in New York or Hawaii, but it's going to be across the country. So leading with helping me understand how big of a deal this is important, because for people who don't, so I don't have a connection to special ed. My son isn't in special ed. I never really went through special ed. I mean, I had issues in school and hearing and felt I can connect to the loneliness and all that stuff. But if you had to come to me you asked me, like, what are my top 10 lists of things that I care about in terms of social good? Special ed probably wouldn't be on that list. So that's your job, is to put it on that list. For me to realize, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was such a big deal. Because everybody's going to be presenting their video and they're all going to be saying how big a deal their thing is, right? So that's your job, is that this impacts 1 in every 3 American lives or something like this. And there's going to be lots of different resources that will say the big numbers. So you lead with that, and then you get to the specific stories. So this is where, if you ever watch political debates, they do a great job of it, where they'll have, they'll lead with some big number of like why we need tax cuts, for example. And then give data to why we need tax cuts. And tax cuts will help generate more business, and it leads to 18 million new jobs last month, all these stats. But then they go down to a specific. Let me tell you about Jeremy from New York. Jeremy runs his bakery, and Jeremy is really struggling, right? So like big, so I understand how big of a deal this is, and then a specific thing to pull on my heartstrings. You need the both, right? So whether it's somebody that you've helped in special ed, I'm sure you've seen a whole bunch of stories from kids that you've helped along the path. Whether it's something in the news cycle, but I think connecting it to something that you've seen. So, for example, there was Julie, and Julie was one of my students, and nobody believed in her, and she felt super lonely. And then we sat down, and I taught her using teddy bears, and then she learned, like whatever the most emotional story is for you. Can you think of somebody that you've really helped that, like, still years later, you still like, man, I love that student?
Oh yeah, like a lot. Like from my job alone, there was I had this one student who we thought was nonverbal, and through working with him, with me and my supervisor, he learned how to communicate. It was like very short sentences. So that was really cool. And through my volunteer work, I want to shout her out because her name is Cinderella, and she has cerebral palsy, but she's also a writer. And so I also have my own media company because I'm a writer and an actor, so I publish books as well. So she was telling me how she always hindered herself from writing because she didn't think that there was room for it. There was room for her story. She would think that, well, there aren't any other authors with disabilities out there. So I told her, well, I could help you with that. And she was just so really grateful that there was someone who would support her in her dream of being a writer and being published. And she would tell me how her own family sometimes would exclude her because they think, oh, she's handicapped, she can't do this, she can't do that. But just knowing that there's someone out there who believes in her, it really lifted up her spirit. So that's what I want other people without disabilities to do, because I don't want them to think, oh, there's no one supporting me, so I rather just take a step back and just watch other people.
So let's dive into her. What was her name?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. What was the moment? What was the most emotional moment for you with her specifically? Like, what happened?
Emotional moment. It was just when she told me that her story didn't matter. Like, that really broke my heart, to think that someone would think their voice doesn't matter, their art doesn't matter. I think that would be a really great emotional. Another emotional part was when she showed me a photo of her family at a wedding, and they asked her to like be at the side, and so she was like in the corner of the photo while everyone else was in the photo. And she would say, "This is how people view me sometimes. It's just someone to put on the side." So yeah, that was an emotional part.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So inside of that, what you need to connect to is the emotion that you were feeling when you heard that. So when she said, she showed me this picture of her when she was down the side, and they basically kicked her out of the family picture and kind of barely kept her in, because she basically showing her that she's not part of this family, not really, just kind of this outcast. How did that make you feel?
It broke my heart. Like, it made me feel disappointed in the family, and it made me feel heartbroken for her, that she would have to she lived this long feeling this way.
So you're in your head, you have to get into your heart.
Okay.
You have to feel it, like to be on the verge of like, when, I don't know if you cried when you heard that, or if you felt angry when you heard that, or you felt just super sad when you heard that, and it's trying to go back to that moment where you were feeling that emotion as well, because that's what's going to sell. This is the point of telling these stories, is to pull on heartstrings. So I need you to get back to that emotional state where you're feeling like, this is so sad and so unacceptable, so that you're not just talking, you're talking about the summary. So you're summarizing it, as opposed to like taking me deep in there and describing specifically so that I feel. Okay. Does that make sense?
A little.
So what was the emotion you were feeling? Like, what's the biggest emotion you're feeling when that happened, when you heard that story?
The biggest emotion, I don't know how else. I was just really sad. I was just really, I don't know. It's just such a basic word, but I just felt very, very down. I don't know. It was a mixture of like.
Did you cry or anything when she told you that, or did you hug her, or what?
Well, it was over text message. Okay. So it was also disbelief. I guess I was in shock that someone could treat another person this way, any person this way. Yeah. So whatever you felt, I need to feel in your voice. So just go back to imagining you got this text. And for her, like, this is her everyday life. That's not just for one picture that she was kind of cast off to the side. This is how she's treated in her everyday life. And she just texted you this, and you imagine, like you got your phone in front of you. You just got this text from this person who said that. Yeah.
Like, trying to put yourself back into that room where you're getting that text. What's rushing through your body?
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking. Yeah, she was telling me first she was just very grateful that I was helping her out, and to me it was just very like, of course, like it's nothing. But then she said, I don't really tell people that I'm a writer because I don't want them to cast me aside like they did. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, yeah. This is the work. So it's, imagine somebody says, okay, well, Angela, like, who cares? Why does it matter?
It matters because this is someone's life, and this is someone who has probably felt this way her entire life, and no one really notices it because no one really knows these stories. yeah, and she's a beautiful young woman, and she deserves everything, I think. I don't know.
No, that's getting better. Like it's connecting that more. Like really trying to feel her. You're the Cinderella, Cinderella or Cinderella?
Cinderella, SID.
Cinderella.
Yeah.
Like it's trying to hold her in your heart. Imagine her suffering, and just you can be the difference for her. You can be a champion for her, and the millions of people who are just like her around America who are also suffering with it. Is that she deserves better.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling her, because you're saying all the right words, but the words aren't connected to emotion yet. Okay. And this is the most important part here. So you don't need 3 examples. You don't need the example of you teaching and the example of you volunteering. You just need that one really good example that's representative to say, wow, I get, because she has cerebral palsy, but it's for everything else. Somebody who has autism, it's the same thing. Somebody who has all sorts of different, special needs, it's the same thing. They're being left out and feel alone. Mm-hmm. So like big numbers as to how many people are struggling and how much is this impacting America and the world. And then let me tell you an example. One of the people I worked with is Cinderella, and this story breaks my heart. And I need you to feel heartbroken while you talk about it.
Okay.
So the top is like, passion and energy and, cool head. And now when you get into the story, if it's just summarizing, I know it means something important to you. But if you're just summarizing and saying the words, it feels disconnected. It's like when who was the president? I forget. One of those debates where it's like, he was, I think it was Bush. I don't remember anyway. It just felt so fake. Like he's telling some story about this small business owner in Arizona or something. And it just felt like he doesn't actually care about this person. It's just another number, where this is your chance to actually show that you, like, Cinderella means something to you and you want to be the champion and the hero for the Cinderellas around the world. Like I care more about Cinderella, and I feel bad that Cinderella's like been cut out from her own family, basically. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So big picture stats, story of Cinderella, that's emotional for you, and then into your story as to why you care about special ed and how you got down this path. So the story with the book that was given to you, and now this is how you're trying to go in and be a change for good, right?
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah,
does that make sense?
Really helpful. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Next, you're going to want to see how your involvement has led to something. So your volunteer work, your community service, your both like on a minor, like you made a huge impact on Cinderella, and maybe she's still messaging you 3 years later or whatever. Anything special in there, like you've meant more to me than my own mom, or like whatever she's sent that might be, again, pulling the heartstrings to say, wow, Angela really cares. It's not just something that she's trying to do to look good, right? Showing that. And then any volunteer work or any charitable work you've done or writing work you've done, and the kind of the impact that it's had, because they want to see that you're invested into this cause. And obviously it was the career that you chose, right? Like you became a special ed teacher, right? That's obviously very important to you, but all of the causes that you supported and some of the direct results that they've gotten because of your involvement, they want to see that this is one of the things the judge is looking at, that when you get involved in something, it's not just the organization that's doing it, but you're doing it. So that if you get Miss World USA, it's not just using their brand, you're going to use their brand to then go off and have a huge impact because you were involved.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Now, have you already started recording it, or where are you at in the video process?
I'm just scripting it out, like outlining it, but now that I've talked to you, I'm gonna re-script it and outline it. Right now I'm just really trying to work on just honing it, like making it, because during my interview with the judges for the state competition, they asked me to summarize it in 30 seconds. And I don't think I was able to do that because I was really like all over the place. So yeah, I really want to focus on making like an elevator pitch, as you said, in our webinar.
Yeah, and when you get to the question section too, when you're doing the interview part, they might ask you, like, you need to have a 30-second version down.
Yeah.
What I would do is almost memorize it at the beginning, but then do it so much that you can then deliver it with emotion, because this is where a lot of the contestants fall down, is you have a memorized pitch, but it doesn't pull at heartstrings. It doesn't feel like you actually care about it, even though you do. You're just so stressed out about getting it out and not, like, you don't, but without the emotion there, you're not going to pull anybody. You're just talking facts, but it's the logical. The logical is not going to be the thing that wins it. It's I need to see how much she cares. So you practice it until you've got it memorized, and then you can deliver it with energy. And don't worry if you forget a word, or it's not exactly, like, you won't deliver it exactly like you practice, but it'll be close enough because you put in the reps, right? Just like I think I said, use the riding the bike example in our session, where if you're so focused on riding the bike and like staying balanced and pedal, you won't have fun and enjoy the bike ride and enjoy the scenery. But once you learn how to ride a bike, then you're not thinking about the feet anymore. You're able to have conversations and enjoy the scenery. So it's the same thing of, like, practicing the pitch is the equivalent of learning to ride the bike. And then you want to have the phrasing and the words down almost automatically, just like riding a bike, that now you don't have to think about it and you can deliver it with a lot of emotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thinking about the setup too, like the visuals. So have you thought about where you're going to actually film it?
I was going to find like a white background and have a ring light and just talk.
Okay.
And but also like have like pictures of my volunteer work and, yeah.
So think props, like if there's anything you can bring in, if there's a card that somebody gave you, if there's an award that you got for something, like, yes, it's great to go off and show B-roll of it, but if there's something that you actually have as an actual prop that you can hold up and say, that would be pretty cool.
Like a prop, okay.
And then thinking too, when you do the interviews, to be very aware of what's in your background, because they're also looking at, like, I wouldn't do it here with just a map and like a closet behind you. That's fine. Right. That's not being critical of you. Just so that you're prepared for when you do the interviews with the judges, even having something about, like having it could be a poster or a page, like, I have my book cover here. You could have something that shows the map of America and where people have special ed issues, or some big numbers or stats. Just something a blank wall is a good start. It's professional. Obviously, you'll have your hair and makeup and all that done, and I don't need to, you can coach me on that stuff. I'm not the makeup expert, but yeah, paying attention to the visuals behind you is, again, like, first impression, going to make a difference right away for the judges too when you're doing the interviews.
Okay, cool. Would you recommend I show the book, or is that too just?
Yes, no, that's great. No, that's a great prop. Do you still have it?
Yeah, I still have it. It's somewhere, but I have it.
Yeah. Like, ideally, it's still the original one that may be a little bit like banged up or something, not just a new one that you buy on Amazon. Yeah, that's amazing. And then you flip, like right here, page 14, where it says this. Yeah, that's an awesome prop.
Okay, cool.
Stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, this is really helpful. Like, I feel more prepared for my video now.
You've got the. Part of the lack of structure is because you care so much and you really want to see it work. It's like, I have so much to say, I want to get it out. But being able to put it into pieces where because it's going to be part of the job. It's not just making the judges understand it. It's once you're doing interviews, like if you win, you're going to be doing interviews and podcasts and going on people's shows. And that's going to be part of the work. Is on an interview, you might have 45 seconds, on a TV, quick little spot to get the message out there. They're not going to give you a half-hour special or something. So it's good training to do it. It's just remembering the big why, right? The big numbers are kind of missing, and then practicing, get it into your heart to get people to care. So watch it back, like film yourself, even something like this. Like, don't worry about the fancy background or anything yet. just film it and practice telling the story. You have to feel emotional watching it back.
Okay.
You have to get into, like, I'm thinking of Cinderella and how much I feel for her and how much pain she was going through. Like, you have to feel emotional watching your own stuff back. And so, like, keep recording it, even if you don't get the right words, because the emotions will be the thing that carry the day and put the judges on your side.
Okay. Yeah,
Cool.
thank you. Thank you so
All right.
much. Yeah.
Good luck, Angela.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Much
Thank
love.
you. You too. Bye.